If you've ever bought anything on Amazon, you've probably gotten one of those emails where Amazon very politely asks you to answer some questions about the product that you have for people who potentially want to buy it. So what we're going to see today is if all those questions and answers are just a festering dumpster fire, or if there's actually some useful information there. And maybe we'll be able to determine whether or not you should even bother asking questions on a product page on Amazon. Today, we're going to be focusing almost entirely on tech-related products, and it's going to be mostly focused on PC gaming hardware. Now, I think a really good place to start with this is actually with Prebuilt systems. Now, here is the top sponsored product. It's by CyberPower. It's called the Gamer Extreme VR Gaming PC. But the next one is actually, are there expansion slots available on the motherboard? If so, what ones? It isn't visible in the photo. And CyberPower actually kind of responded to this. So it's good that they're checking that out. So they're saying, thank you for reaching out. There will be 2 slots available. You know, it's very useful information. They even give you a phone number to call. It's very nice of them. And someone says, there are no extra SATA ports on the motherboard, so you won't be able to add any hard drives. Why would it not have SATA ports available? Like, I'm pretty sure that answer is incorrect. Yeah, okay, that's not a good start. Now here, someone asks, can I use 2 GPU? Very to the point, very succinct. And then CyberPower responded to this one as well, and they said, thank you for reaching out. Unfortunately, the motherboard may not support dual graphics. If you want to use dual graphics cards, you'll need a motherboard that supports these features. They're not giving you a direct answer that it specifically won't, but they're saying it most likely won't. And then someone else responds that yes, the Azork B360M motherboard that it uses supports Crossfire. So CyberPower's support and Manul they're giving competing arguments here. Yeah, I don't actually know. It doesn't specifically say what the motherboard is, so I don't know who's right. Someone asked, does it really work? Which I guess is an interesting question to ask because, you know, I don't know if CyberPower has the best reputation. What's the name of the RAM company? And then CyberPower reaches out and says, well, we don't know. It varies from product to product. So they don't seem to know what RAM they use. So here someone says, I need this PC, but I want faster delivery. And then Mike responds with Prime capitalized P or Prime without a capitalized P. It kind of looks more like he's asking how do you spell Prime as opposed to giving a suggestion how to get faster delivery. But yeah, anyway, thank you, Mike. It's the thought that counts, I guess. So here we have a pre-built by iBUYPOWER. So let's see if iBUYPOWER is as helpful as CyberPower and Skytech when it comes to responding to customers' questions. Obviously, the first one with 19 upvotes is, does this run Fortnite? And according to iBUYPOWER, yes, it does. You should be able to run it no problem. I mean, you really should be able to. What system is this? Oh, this is that terrible GT 710 system. And then someone asks, how many FPS will you get? And then Rachel responds with, my toaster oven can run Fortnite, which is very helpful, Rachel. But I think JR really captures the imagination with his response, which is just, Fortnite sucks. And then, yeah, someone was like, lol, I have the same question. But yeah, thank you, JR. Thank you for giving us your opinion on the game. Okay, so it seems that as far as pre-built systems go, you mostly get decent information if you ask questions. So let's go to something like a CPU. Let's try the AMD 3700X. This is a CPU that I have, so I feel fairly qualified to answer questions about it and see whether or not people's responses are worth anything. Why is it $130 over MSRP? Which is a very, very worthwhile question. And then the first answer is capitalism. They will restock in a week or so, and then it'll be at MSRP. So now, we're actually sitting with it at below MSRP. So at least capitalism is now working the way that it's supposed to, I guess. So everybody is just complaining about how expensive it is. And then there's a surprising amount of questions of, will this work on a specific motherboard? So your answer here to the should you use it on a Prime A320M motherboard, the correct answer to that one is probably no. It could work, it would work, but it's not recommended. Now here is a pretty good example of what kind of question you shouldn't be asking on the Amazon product page, and there's a perfect response to it as well. Someone says, how is this compared to its predecessor, the Ryzen 7 2700X? What are the differences in terms of performance and whatever? And then TT responds with, mate, just write and search 3700X versus 2700X on Google or YouTube and watch videos. Perfect response, because like, what do you want? Do you want somebody to give you all of the benchmarks on the Amazon product page? Like, that's a really weird question to ask. So it's starting to get a bit more interesting as you get further down the comment section, because here someone asks, which CPU is better, this or an i5-7600, which is a bit of a weird kind of, it's a bit of a weird comparison. But anyway, Alan tries his best to reply. He says, better depends upon the comparison criteria, which, okay, yeah, that's fair enough. This link sums up some benchmarks rather nicely. And then he compares the 3700X to a different CPU, which, you know, it's an interesting move here. Although I've used Intel processors for 20 years in my build, I've moved over to AMD because it was not clear if Intel has fixed their Spectre and Meltdown vulnerabilities adequately. Most likely, whichever CPU you choose, whichever CPU you choose, you are unlikely to notice a major difference. Okay, Alan, I don't really know where you came up with that information, because the 9600K and the 7600 are very different CPUs, and you can't really say that he's not going to experience a difference. But let's see if somebody corrects Alan further down. Keith says, this by a large margin. The CPU outperforms an i9 in some benchmarks, and then the 3700X by far. So for some reason, this is the top rated one. I don't quite understand why, but anyway. Here we have, here we have a very good example of why you probably shouldn't be asking questions on Amazon answers. If I have an AIO and ask for an expert installation, will they use the AIO that is mounted for an AMD CPU, or will they always go for the stock cooler? And then Dinob responds with, what is an AIO? Why respond? Why respond if you don't know what it is? Like, why? Just Dinob, why? So let's see what kind of questions people have about AIOs on Amazon, because I feel like, you know, as that previous answer suggested, not everybody knows what an AIO is. So this person asks, can you put coolant instead of water in this? And then Jazz goes into a lot of detail about water actually cools better than antifreeze. This is why you still have to mix antifreeze with water. Antifreeze is an additive that prevents the coolant from freezing. In the case of CPU application, my understanding is the bigger issue is that bacteria and fungus, any additive would prevent contamination, but with a sealed system like this, you shouldn't have any problem with that. Why did he go on a long spiel about antifreeze? The person didn't ask about antifreeze. They just wanted to know if you could change the coolant. That's interesting, but at least by the end of it, they still didn't answer the question, actually. They didn't even answer the question. And then David responds with, water is a coolant. Thank you, David. You really cleared it up there, buddy. Thank you so much. Wow, that came out more Canadian. Maybe I'm starting to assimilate. Anyway, we've got, no, this is a sealed unit. I'm using this with this system, overclocked to this amount, and it works fine. Okay, that's a weird flex there. This is a sealed unit all-in-one, and then this person's also flexing here with their Extreme Edition Intel CPU. And then, yeah, okay, so at least somebody does get to the answer. So here is a pretty straightforward question, which in my opinion does make sense to ask on a product page, right? You're asking, will this specific cooler fit in this case? And then Dan responds with, it takes a special computer case with more room at the top, I'm guessing. I have dual fan 240, and I can tell you this much. Forget the stock fans it comes with and get the Thermaltake slim low profile fans in order for the fans to not get in the way of the motherboard and memory slots, exclamation mark. The dual fan radiator keeps my CPU ice cold, seriously. I have cold air coming out of the back of my computer due to the 240mm dual radiator. After all of that, he says, to answer your question, you may have to go with a full tower for extra headroom. I would hate to see you take out your DVD slot bracket to make it fit. Dan, what the hell, man? Like, I don't even really know how to respond to a statement like that. Let's see if somebody else... Yes, See, that was what the person was looking for. Either yes or no, not this entire spiel that ends up with, I would hate for you to take out your DVD slot bracket to make it fit. In conclusion, I clearly cherry-picked some pretty ridiculous responses to some fairly ridiculous questions, but I think it illustrates my point quite effectively. Now, my point is that if you're the type of person who asks tech-related questions on product pages on Amazon, chances are you won't really be able to tell the difference between a useful response, which there is a lot of on Amazon, it's not all ridiculous, but you won't be able to tell the difference between a useful response and something that's just a complete waste of your time. So I think if you do have tech-related questions about products, either Google it or ask on a forum or a related subreddit, any place where there's a community of people that know what they're talking about that'll be able to point you in the correct direction. I think that's definitely a better bet than asking around on Amazon. Anyway, thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel, like the video, share it with your friends, follow me on whatever social media. I've got it all linked in the description below. And yeah, until the next video, bye-bye.